Hey guys, it's Rob here and welcome back to another video. So in this video we are going to talk about some recent Nintendo Switch news as well as those Nintendo 64 leaks when it comes to different Nintendo 64 games hitting the Nintendo Switch Online service. If you guys remember, a while back there was a trailer put out by Nintendo and they blurred out some Nintendo 64 games, and some of those games have recently come to light and added to the Nintendo Switch Online service. So it's very clear that some of these games will end up being featured in the Nintendo Switch Online service Nintendo 64 app and announced by Nintendo. So we're going to go through some of those and see what exactly we're going to be expecting on the Nintendo Switch app. We also do have some Square Enix news for Octopath Traveler Zero, game I'm pretty excited for. We know the frame rate and resolution now, so that's pretty great that we're getting some details before that release. And there's also a new update for the Game Boy Advance app for the Nintendo Switch Online service. They made some changes to it, so that's pretty cool. If you guys end up enjoying this video, make sure you guys leave a like and of course subscribe if you want more news, leaks, and rumors. So to talk about the Nintendo 64 games that are going to be coming to the Nintendo Switch Online service, first we gotta go back to the original article from Nintendo Life, and they showcased multiple tweets that have discovered different Nintendo 64 games on the Nintendo Switch app. So this is what Nintendo Life had to say back then. Interpret fans have been doing some serious detective work on Nintendo's Nintendo 64 trailer from May, and they think they've identified several as yet unannounced releases for Nintendo Switch Online. The section of the trailer showing off the app's new CRT filter has the blurred game selection screen shown below the settings screen. Playing around with the layers and a little Gaussian blur, fans have been busy identifying potential games in the background, including Donkey Kong 64, Forsaken 64, Glover, Super Smash Bros, and Rayman 2. And as you can see on this photo, the Twitter account who found this said this: "I started hunting with my Discord for what games Nintendo accidentally spoiled with the May Nintendo Switch Online update, and this is what I've found so far. Still trying to compare box arts, but this is what we have so far." And as you can see, the screenshot from the trailer has multiple Nintendo 64 games, including one that was recently announced. We covered this in the last video, but for those who haven't checked out the Nintendo 64 Nintendo Switch Online app or just haven't heard the news, Forsaken 64 was added to the Nintendo Switch Online service. So that means we should be expecting Donkey Kong 64, Glover, Super Smash Bros, Rayman 2, those games being added to the Nintendo Switch Online service as well. Now there is something I find very interesting, especially when it comes to Rayman 2. Funny enough, there is a rumor about a Nintendo Direct happening next week. It's supposed to be around the 11th or 12th, or at least in the back half of September. So not only do I want to say that we might see some of these games at the Nintendo Direct announced for the Nintendo Switch Online service, but when I'm talking about Rayman, the 30th anniversary for Rayman is on the 7th. And we know that Ubisoft is currently celebrating the anniversary for Rayman, and they're bringing back Rayman via a remake. We covered a lot of that in the past video as well, including possibilities of Rayman 4. So my question is, does this 30th anniversary have anything to do with a potential announcement at that Nintendo Direct if it ends up being true anyways? And could we see Rayman 2 being added to the Nintendo Switch Online service for Rayman's 30th anniversary? A lot of those things are lining up, so I just kind of noticed that, and I'm wondering if that's one of the games that we're going to be receiving next in this line that was featured in the trailer that was blurred out. So pretty interesting. Just to recap the games that we might be getting, or we should be getting I should say, because it was literally in their trailer, is Donkey Kong 64, Super Smash Bros, Nintendo 64, Glover 64, Rayman 2, The Great Escape 64, and Forsaken 64. And some of those games have already been added to the Nintendo Switch Online service. Of course, I think Rayman 2 is probably a pretty guaranteed at this point, especially considering that there's going to be that 30th anniversary for Rayman, which happens on September 7th, right around that Nintendo Direct that would happen, right? So it makes a lot of sense. But let me know what you guys think about that. Do you guys think we're going to get Rayman 2 for the 30th anniversary, or do you think they're going to pick a different game? With that being said, let's move on to the next topic. So Octopath Traveler Zero, we now know the resolution and frame rate for the game. This is a game that I'm pretty excited for. I know a lot of people don't like the HD 2D games, or at the very least they're kind of getting sick of them, but I absolutely love the art style and I hope they do make more. I know people probably don't like that, but I personally love them. Let me know if you guys are getting sick of them or do you want more. But anyways, Octopath Traveler Zero recently got some news about the frame rate and resolution, and this is what Nintendo Everything has to say on it. Square Enix has provided new technical details about Octopath Traveler Zero, and we have a new confirmation regarding frame rate rate and resolution for the Nintendo Switch 2 and Switch versions. For the frame rate, expect things to be up to 60 FPS on Nintendo Switch 2. The action is up to 30 FPS on the original Nintendo Switch. Moving on to the resolution, Octopath Traveler Zero will run up to 1080p on Nintendo Switch 2. This drops down to 720 on the original Nintendo Switch. Square Enix doesn't designate between docked and portable mode, so it's unclear if these resolutions, and for some reason it just cuts off there. I'm guessing what they mean is we don't know if the 1080p or 720p is going to be on the Nintendo Switch 2. Is it going to jump between depending on what's happening on screen? We don't know. But as far as we can tell for the Nintendo Switch 2, it's going to be 1080p at the very least. Now they also go into how many objects can be on screen when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2 and how close it is to the PS4 version. So this is what they say. We'll also mention that there's a difference in town building limits between the two versions. On Nintendo Switch 2, you can place up to 400 objects, which is in line with the PS4 version. The limit on Nintendo Switch is 250 items. Octopath Traveler Zero launches on December 4th, 2025. Now, I am going to make a video on all the details that we got. Apparently, there was a lot of new detail screenshots of that, but I'm going to make that its own video. Make sure you guys subscribe for that, and let me know if you guys are actually interested in Octopath Traveler Zero. I absolutely love games like this because I don't know. It's just one of those things that I really enjoy. I love just sitting down, experiencing the story, trying out different attacks, spells, that kind of thing. But yeah, let me know if you're interested in Octopath Traveler Zero. And moving on to another topic for the Nintendo Switch Online service. So the Game Boy Advance for Nintendo Switch Online service has been slightly updated. So according to Nintendo Life, this is what they had to say. Switch Online's Nintendo Classic Library has this week been expanded with Forsaken 64 and the Japan only release Magical Vacation. Although the GBA title still hasn't made available locally, the app here has received an update, bumping it up to version 3.0.0. First, the official banner and icon for this app has been updated, swapping out the Switch Online branding for Nintendo Classics. Apart from this, there's reportedly been some functionality including button remapping options along with 1080p support in handheld mode on Switch 2. So this is actually pretty cool, and apparently there is also an Easter egg that's added, which we'll get to very soon, but I just want to quickly say that that's actually pretty cool that they upgraded the support for the resolution. I think that's always a fantastic thing. A clearer picture, just makes you enjoy the game better, especially if there's a fantastic art style. You'll be able to enjoy that with a clear image. At least for me anyways. I don't know about anyone else. But as for that Easter egg, this is what Nintendo Life had to say. An Easter egg has also been added to the startup screen. If you hold the left analog stick when starting the app, the original Game Boy Advance boot up screen will appear. That's actually pretty cool. So yeah, a pretty cool update on the Nintendo Switch Online service. With that being said, let me know what you guys think about these topics down in the comment section below. Personally, I'm a little disappointed with the Square Enix's development of Octopath Traveler Zero when it comes to resolution and frame rate. I expect something higher considering that the Nintendo Switch 2 is supposed to be more powerful, at least in docked mode. So I'm a little bit disappointed there. It's not going to ruin my time on Octopath Traveler Zero, of course, because it's probably just going to look really fantastic considering that it is a smaller screen, so you're probably not going to notice that. But when you blow it up on a 4K TV, hopefully it looks good. A lot of times if you blow something up on a 4K TV, it can look a little weird. I've noticed that on the original Nintendo Switch because you're blowing up an image that wasn't made for 4K, I'm assuming anyways. Also, let me know what you think about the Nintendo 64 games. What Nintendo 64 games do you want to be added to the Nintendo Switch Online service? That would be a pretty interesting comment to read. And of course, what do you think about the small updates for the Game Boy Advance? Have you tried out that Easter egg? Let me know if you like it or not.